So you said you're the president. You're the president and CEO of Winterhawk Technology. Let's get into what they're doing, their business model, and some of the new technology that they've got in the market right now.
Winterhawk was conceived. My brother-in-law is a very clever design engineer. He cut his teeth with Imperial Oil in the early days of steam-assisted gravity drainage at Cold Lake, and he's a problem solver. And so with Winterhawk, he's really come up with three different technologies. One of the first ones was actually site reclamation, and this was invented. There was a tender put out some time ago to clean up the oil spill in Kuwait. They left something like 300 million barrels of oil was left over after the first Gulf War, and he was instructing over there. And they put out a tender, and of course, because he came from the oil sand, separating oil from sand was where he grew up. So one of them is a site reclamation technology. The program got canceled, but that lives on. That's a very fascinating patent. We're just exploring whether somebody wants to use that for using what's called on-site, in situ or in place, cleaning up contaminated soil on site. The second one was a plug, an advanced plug for a well that used a combination of expandable steel rings and asphalt as a sealant. But the third one, and the most exciting, is casing expansion, and that's the graphic I sent along. And that is often wells, as they mature, they leak up the outside. There's a cement in a well, the run steel pipe in a well that's cemented on the outside. Over time, the cement deteriorates, and you get a leak up the outside called a surface casing vent flow. And his idea was controlled casing expansion. We would run in and expand the casing from the inside, recompress the cement, and shut off the gas. And that is probably the most exciting technology in the suite right now, is casing expansion. I have been involved in my career in the wellbore abandonment construction business for some time, and I've followed my brother-in-law's technology. And so when I was asked to come in and help out with the project, when he took ill, I took the slide deck around to about 20 different oil companies. So what do you think of this? And pretty well everyone is intrigued. So we're just in the process of doing field testing. We did our first commercial or non-commercial. I had to subsidize. We did our first field test of the new setting system just a couple months ago. We did expand casing in the well, and the first time in history actually. And we did actually disrupt the gas flow. We're just doing some more field testing. We're hoping to be back in the field in the next couple of weeks. But this will be a game changer if we can prove it works, and it has to work. In the sense, it has to work to be commercially viable. This will be the most exciting development in reducing the cost of shutting off subsurface methane emissions in history. And so it's an exciting project, and everyone agrees it is commercially useful. I stepped in October to help out. Obviously, the COVID, like everyone else in the world, got a little bit of a curveball coming out of left field that we hadn't planned on. But
Yeah,
overall,
no kidding.
I do believe the genie's out of the bottle, and that casing expansion is going to become a routine part. The early research was done on this theory of expanding the casing and reformatting the cement in the well. Was originally conceived by Shell and the University of Louisiana back in 2014. And they wrote technical papers on how this ought to work. Shell has gone down the path of a system that accomplishes the same thing in a much different way. And they have done some field testing. So we're not lone rangers in this field. One of the largest oil companies in the world actually sponsored the development of similar technology. I think we have a better mousetrap. I think that the method that we're using to expand the casing is more effective. And we're actually have a bit of dialogue going on with Shell about working with the regulators to have them understand why this might work. But I do believe that this will become, again, the genie's out of the bottle, I believe. This is an entirely novel and unique innovation. And I do believe that using casing as something other than a barrier in your well will be adopted worldwide in the not too distant future. This isn't going to go away. If our tool doesn't work, I can't see why it won't. But I mean, it is still R&D, and we are in a challenging business environment. But this will be part of the industry's toolbox for a long time to come, and a real positive advancement in getting ahead of the game.
Well, I guess the hope is if you can get it to the market within this time frame of when the funding for the well abandonment is coming through, that's a good opportunity for the company to grow in the market with properly sourced funding at play. Is that right?
I think actually it doesn't really matter when it works. I think obviously having all this activity in this specific area of the industry, if it worked right now, it'd be better. But I do believe that we have cut the. I was just actually applying for some government funding, and I was going through one of the things you have to do to get emissions reduction funding is you have to calculate the greenhouse gas emissions of the process. So what I'm just working on as we speak is I looked at the conventional method of shutting off a leaking well, which is you bring on a rig and you haul in all the equipment, you blow holes in, you pump cement, and then when we're done, we'll be able to come in with a wireline truck and do it in about 3 hours instead of 2 days with one piece of equipment instead of 10. And the actual greenhouse gas reductions in the setting process are reduced by over 90%. And this means we're done burning diesel fuel and gasoline. But more importantly, the cost is reduced by also about 90%. So this is one of those, that's really the definition of any successful technology, as you know from the many people you talk to, is if you can come up with something that does an essential job at a fraction of the cost in a more efficient process, you got a winner. So the textbook definition of what new technology is meant to do is right in the wheelhouse of the casing expansion technology.